Good morning, everyone. We're just going to wait for a few more people to trickle in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. Um, this will be recorded, and it will be on our YouTube channel. So if you want to review any past sessions, look at anything before, go ahead and log in subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to get these alerts as we upload them. So today we're going to have a deep dive into ChatGPT and projects and Claude projects and how they work. We're going to go over each platform and kind of what strengths each one has and what weaknesses each of the different platforms have to help you make a better decision to what you're planning on using it for and how you plan on using it within your organization. So in just 16 months, we've seen a massive shift and transformation with AI and the way it's evolved. It's advancing at such a rapid rate. We used to say plan 18 months in advance, and now we're saying don't plan more than 6 months in advance, maybe even 3 months in advance, just to see what's changing and what updates have come into play and things like that. So we went from basic chatbots to full-fledged project management tools that can help you basically get through almost anything. So there are 3 different tools we're going to talk about. 2 of them are by OpenAI. One of them is by Anthropic or Claude. And we're going to really take a deep dive into each of them and just go over the features, how to use them, when to use them, and the key differentiators. So it's critical to know the differences between ChatGPT projects and custom GPTs. And really the reason for that is they have different use cases, and the way you set them up are slightly different as well. And Claude Projects is just it's a great research assistant. It's great at finding information within documents, and the way it processes data is a little bit different. So let's talk about ChatGPT projects and what you could do with them. So within projects, you have a couple different settings. You can either use the default memory settings or the project only memory settings. And the reason for that is sometimes you want to isolate your project to only the information and the chat history that's within that project. You don't want the AI to spill into the other conversations you've had, and that's a key differentiator. You can lock that down. Unlike when you're using a regular chat, you're going to be able to have it bleed into your other chat history, and it's going to go through and use other conversations you've had with it for memory and reference and context. ChatGPT has a lot of integration, so it integrates with Google, Microsoft, and they've just announced a whole bunch more within the last couple of days, and we'll kind of talk about that a little bit more later. We actually have a whole session next month about connectors and integrations that you would be using. And when you have a project, you can actually share this project with a team. You can have up to 100 team members, and it just allows for more flexibility for everyone to kind of have the same information, and you're not repeating the work or you're not repeating the prompts or the chats individually. So some good practical workflows that you can think about are in having a contract review assistant, or a matter, like each project is a client matter, and you upload critical documents within that client. For tax season, you can have a project that's developed around reviewing previous returns, seeing if anything's changed with regulations, potentially flagging different issues, right? For nonprofits, you can have it write grants. I mean, any industry can have it write documents for it or create SOPs or whatnot. And just changing your workflow. Each workflow needs different context, and that's when you're going to decide, okay, this is a project and we need to put it into a project because I have specific context that only applies to this use case. Custom GPTs are a little different. Custom GPTs can be used in any of your chats. They can reference memory across all of your chats. You can give it specific knowledge and files that it would use as training. So a great custom GPT would be an HR assistant, where you upload your company handbook, you upload your policies for your organization, and you can instruct it that anyone that asks this GPT a question about how much PTO or how does their PTO schedule work, or do we offer FMLA, or whatever you're asking, it's going to reference your company policies, it's going to reference your company handbook, and it's going to use that to respond to your team with those answers, taking a little bit of weight off your shoulders. The best way to create custom GPTs, and we could do a deeper dive into this, is actually using the Chat GPT to help you build it. One of my favorite things to do is I say I want to build a GPT for my brand, because we're rebranding from Easy Tech Support to Easy Tech Solutions. I asked it to interview me about what I'm expecting it to be able to do so that it can create instructions for the custom GPT that I'm building. And it does an interview where it asks me 5 to 10 questions, and I answer each question, and then it builds the instruction set that I just copy and paste into the custom GPT. Highly recommend it. I've talked about this, using the AI to help you build the personalization settings by interviewing you. So custom GPT ideas is a contract analyzer, right? This is something that you might ask it in a quick chat. You might want to use it in multiple chats because you have different chats for different clients, or different contracts or contract types or whatnot. Jurisdiction specific, if it's a state or maybe it's an industry that you're doing. And then a citation checker. This is not as accurate 100% just because Westlaw and Lexis tend to have a grip around those things. But if you upload into its knowledge base certain citations that you want it to reference against, then that will create a less hallucination risk, which we'll talk about. For accounting firms, you can have it write memos for different standards. It can do ratio analyzers. It can do a compliance check. Compliance is pretty publicly, it's all public, so it's a little easier to check than certain case law and things like that. And for nonprofits, you can have a grant writer. You can have something that's communicating to donors or drafting your communication to donors, and maybe creating some A/B testing for those. So keep those in mind as you go through and figuring out when to use something. A couple key things: custom GPTs can also be shared with your team, meaning you can create one, perfect it, get it to do what you want it to do, and then you can share it with your office or with even public. You can put it up on the GPT store. So let's shift into Claude and take a moment and think about how it's different. So Claude doesn't go based on a file count. It goes based on the context and how many tokens. And in one of our very first sessions, we talked about what a token is. And for refreshment for the new people here, a token is a combination of, is a word or a combination of words that equal a token. It's a mathematical equation that's done through an algorithm that helps it determine how many tokens a document is. So 200,000 tokens is roughly 500 pages. It could be more or less depending on what you're inputting and how much logos and images tend to take up more tokens than not. So that's something to consider. So that's where it differs. ChatGPT uses kind of like a RAG technology where it chunks up the data, and that's where it could get a little lost or it doesn't understand the full context of something. Claude's superpower is it does not use the RAG technology, and it just uses the full text search and tries to use the entire document as a as its point of reference for context. Claude also has so one key thing about Claude in projects is you can have unlimited files, but you have a 200,000 token limit. In the chat, you have a maximum of 20 files you can upload. What I like about Claude is it does reference where it found the information in your document automatically. With ChatGPT, you have to ask it to do the referencing and the citations. So that's some key things. Claude also has something called artifacts where it will create a document or a PowerPoint or a Excel spreadsheet for you. It calls that artifacts. And we're going to actually talk about that in our next month when we go over connectors, agents, and artifact/canvas, which is a cool collaborative tool that you can use with the AI. Everything with Claude is the same. You can share projects, you can share, you have to create instructions, and you have to upload files. So with Claude projects, the best way to think about it is it can do a lot of document heavy work. You can upload an entire acquisition agreement, ask it to do a risk analysis, get responses for citing specific sections. So basically you upload, you analyze, you have a generator create, and then you verify. That's the human in the loop, always verify. So an example one of our clients did was they had it analyze a 300-page mergers and acquisitions agreement. It identified 47 risks, and it created an executive summary citing those within about 3 or 4 minutes, compared to that would probably take maybe an hour of an attorney's time. So there's some big savings there. Here's some comparisons, a little chart to kind of put things side by side. Claude projects, unlimited files. With ChatGPT Teams or the Pro version, you have up to 40 files. For Claude, it has a 200 token context window. ChatGPT has a size limit window, and it does have a limit on how big the file can be, a single file, and then the combination of files is 100 gigabytes max for the context. Claude shows citations to where it references the documents. In ChatGPT, it's not visible unless you're asking for it, specifically in your instructions when in your prompt, right? It approaches the entire content, the file, the documents for context. With ChatGPT, it uses a vector search or AI search, which basically chunks up the document, cuts it up into what it thinks is how it should be cut up with relevance, and it creates a map of it, and then it uses that for reference and an index to reference things later when you ask questions. That's why sometimes it gets things right. Most of the time it gets things right, sometimes it gets things wrong. So how do you decide which one to go with? Well, really, you want to follow this matrix. I use both ChatGPT and Claude for various things. And until one of them really gets it perfect and gets it all around, I prefer to use both. And I'm not telling you guys, I'm not recommending that you use both, but find the one that checks all your boxes. So if you're managing multiple client matters, ChatGPT projects or Claude projects works really well. If you're reviewing contracts or legal documents, I would definitely think Claude is better. Claude does better at writing, and it does better at analysis for both financial analysis and document analysis. And the reason it does that is because it uses code and to process its information, and it basically like spins up its own program to process information and then puts it back together and spits it out to you. Standardized letters, custom GPTs, financial statements, Claude projects, because you want to keep it separated. Drafting grant proposals, that's a gray area. You can do it with ChatGPT projects or Claude projects, but you can also use a custom GPT in this case, depending on your workflow and how you're using your AI, and so on and so forth. So each AI has its own memory features. ChatGPT gives you two different memory features where it allows you to choose whether you want it to, in a project, to spill into your other chat history for memory or to reference saved memory. Project only, which is limited to the project. And once you make that, you can't change it in that project. You have to basically create a new project. So once it's done, it's locked for that project. So it's not to worry. You just create another project, pick the setting you want, and you do it. With Claude, it's always project specific. You don't get the option to have it bleed into the other chat history that you've had for project memory. And it does give you the option, both ChatGPT and Claude give you the option to do what's called incognito mode. And so you can do a temporary chat is what ChatGPT calls it. Incognito is what Claude calls it. And that allows you to use the chat without it also referencing history. It basically isolates it. So it cannot use your previous chat for history. It does not save anything. So once that chat is done and you close out of it, everything is erased. So you can't go back and reference it later either. For some of the advanced features and comparisons when you want to compare both, and this is how you pick, it's another good form of picking which one you want. ChatGPT can do image creation. It has an advanced voice mode, which I prefer, especially when I'm on the go. I'm able to use the voice module and talk to it with my AirPod on and brainstorm or dictate letters that I wanted to draft, or emails to responses to emails, things like that. And then when I get to where I'm going, I'm able to copy and paste and start sending those emails out or fine tune them. It also has some writing tools in Sora, their video generation. Claude is a lot better at writing and putting together. It has a good context window. You can see its strategic thinking, things like that. Both have platforms that you can share with your team or externally and publishing those types of things. So we talked about the connectors. We're going to go deeper into this next month, but I want to give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek. And with connectors, these are just some of the apps. As of last week, remember I said you don't want to plan more than 2 or 3 months or 6 months in advance, because literally last week the ChatGPT had a dev day, or I think it was this past Tuesday. They had something, OpenAI had dev day, where they announced a whole bunch of new integrations and new connectors that you can connect to your ChatGPT. I like that because I'm able to connect my Outlook, emails, my calendar, my Teams, and my SharePoint, and I'm able to ask it questions about what's on my calendar and ask it to check an email or draft a response, search for an email and draft for a response, or find an email that I can't find necessarily. Works way better than the Outlook chat, which we all know sometimes decides to work and sometimes decides not to work. It's like the McDonald's ice cream machines. With Claude, they also have connectors, but Claude actually takes it a step further, and they give you desktop extensions as well. So ways to integrate things that are on your computer, like a folder or things like that, instead of connecting it to the cloud. One of the downsides to Claude is it only has Google integrations and a few others. They are working on bringing in Microsoft after they struck a new deal with Microsoft into bringing it into Copilot. So that was also big news within the last couple of weeks, where Microsoft and Anthropic are going to be using the Claude models in Copilot instead of ChatGPT. So what's the best, like, here's some best practices that we can go through and just keep in mind when you're going through this and you're using it. So when you create a project, have clear boundaries around the project. Is this for a client matter, or is this for a specific task? Maybe you're searching for a new receptionist and you're going to go through 1,500 resumes. Well, maybe a project is good for that, so then you can just archive it later. Strategic file uploads, don't just upload the moon into it in every document you have. Be strategic about what context you give it. This, coupled with a good prompt, will give you really good results. But if you're giving it unnecessary information, you're going to allow it to hallucinate. And it's just opening the door for those issues. Memory configuration. This allows you to choose if you want it to reference other chats and not, right? Make sure you pick something and think about how you're using that when you go down, when you're putting it together. And create standardized naming conventions for your projects. These things build up, things get lost, it becomes harder to find things, and before you know it, you're getting frustrated and you're spending more time finding things than actually getting work done or using the system. So with a custom GPT, it's got to have a narrow scope. It has to be a single task. It's doing a single task. It is not trying to do a task and build research and then create an executive report. A custom GPT is something that is knowledgeable about a specific file set, is knowledgeable about or does one task. It generates client letters that are about, whatever it is. It analyzes contracts. So think about that as you're going. When you're building it, test it. Give it various use cases so that you can see if it's actually working. We were just working with a client yesterday where we put together an HR resume review assistant, and we put the job description and we had it create a scoring rubric, and then we uploaded 10 resumes, and it scored the resumes. And we looked at it and we realized things were not, it was getting things wrong, or it was missing the point. So we went back and iterated on our prompt, made some revisions for that, and then put it back in. And it was reviewing resumes and helping us pull out the strongest candidates from a stack of hundreds. Everything we talked about always comes all the way back to a good prompt. So remember to use the prompting structures to either create your project instructions or to create your custom GPT instructions. Also, when you're prompting it to do work or you're giving it a task, maintain the same prompting structures that we're talking about here, these frameworks. The CLEAR framework, we talked about this last month in our prompting AI lab, the CRISPy framework. If you guys need the information on this or more details, let me know. We'll send it out. But you got to give it context. On top of the context you've given it in the files, you want to give it additional context about what it is you're trying to have it do, or what it is that you're looking for in specific. What kind of tone or language is it? Is it a professional? Is it not? What is the expectation, the outcome, the format? Who's the audience you're talking to? And then you refine any refinements or anything that you want it to watch out for or do or not do. Same thing with the crispy prompt. It's the same thing. Capacity to role. What is it doing? What is it responsible for? What does it need to look for? What are the results? What is the output, the outcome that you're expecting? Give it any insight. That's context. What steps should it take to complete that task? Personality is language, tone, things like that. And then giving it some examples of what a successful result looks like and what a poor result looks like. And this will help it give you the results you're looking for. So both have collaborative aspects to them. They allow you to share documents or chats. They allow you to share projects and custom GPTs and things like that. They both are in a race to getting market share. So what features ChatGPT has today will be features that eventually Claude has tomorrow, and there are features that Claude has today that I can guarantee you ChatGPT will have tomorrow. So don't stress yourself out about which one do I use. Pick one that checks the majority of your boxes and that does what you need it to do, and go with it, and just really spend time customizing it, personalizing it, building correct prompts and things like that. So here's some examples or use cases that each of our each industry can use it for. Projects, right? For law firms, you can use it for client matters, especially with isolated memory, so it's not spilling in anywhere, and your regular chats are not spilling into that memory. Custom GPTs for contract reviewers or citations checkers. For Claude, you can use document analysis or brief writing for your mediation briefs or your arbitration briefs or anything that you're putting together, really. Accounting firms, you can, for tax seasons and audits, for ratio calculators, custom GPTs. Claude is really good at financial analysis for financial statements and stuff like that. For nonprofits, projects could be for grant applications or campaigns. Custom GPTs for donor communications, right? Something that's going to draft a letter that you can share with your entire team. So let's talk about some things to avoid. Hallucination risk. That comes from two different things. One, you're asking it to do contradictory tasks, or in your task, you're asking it to do things that are contradictory to themselves, and therefore it gets confused. And AI wants to please you. So it is going to stroke your ego, and it's just going to make something up that it feels is going to please you. Whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't care, because it doesn't know any better. So be clear, make sure you're verifying its outputs. Don't just trust it. Context overload. We talked about this just a few minutes ago. Too much context can be a bad thing. So let's make sure you're giving it only the necessary information that it needs to produce the results or get you the response or document or whatever it is that you need. Memory pollution. Too much back and forth. Clean up your chats. Make sure that you're cleaning up the memory. Those are in your settings so that it can only reference things that are accurate, especially when it starts to hallucinate. You got to go in and clean that stuff up, erase it from its memory. And when you're being overbroad, that's going to create more risk, whether it's for hallucination or just poor output. Remember to keep things specific. Be as specific as you can. And when you're putting together your request to the AI, whether that's with instructions or when you're asking it to build instructions for you for a project or a custom GPT, or you're giving it a task, talk to it like a 5-year-old. If you're being very specific, it's going to respond better. So a good way to measure success is how much time have you saved doing something. In the beginning, you're not really going to save time because you got to build up your prompt. You got to make sure you build your project correctly with the correct instructions. You got to work through that through an iterative process. But once you get it and it does what you need it to do, you're going to save a good amount of time. What would you do if you can regain 30% of your time back because you spent front-loaded by creating good projects or good custom GPTs and good instructions? Save those in your prompt library like we talked about last month, and putting those for everyone to use. And now you're regaining some of your time. So some examples is a contract review goes from 4 hours to 1 hour. A tax memo draft goes down from 3 hours to 30 minutes. massive amounts of time saved. I can't tell you how much time it saves me, and it allows me to have more capacity to do more. So I mentioned this a couple of times. I am a multi-platform type person. I try to use the best of the tools, and literally we'll start something in ChatGPT and put it into Claude, or I'll take something from Claude and put it into ChatGPT because now I need it to create an image or to create a quick little video or whatever, or to write marketing content for me that is a little bit more on the creative side versus Claude is very analytical and just straightforward. So the tools are ready. The real question is how are you going to use them to transform your business and your work, right? Success comes from understanding each of their strengths and applying them or adopting them strategically. So make sure you're trying these things out, experiment. It's okay to make some mistakes. Just always make sure to keep someone, a human, in the loop. Do not let people just produce work, not even check it, and send it out. Do we have any questions? So these are some of our next upcoming AI learning labs. Please feel free to register. If you missed some of the previous ones or you want to reference some of the stuff we've talked about previously, you can go to our YouTube channel at Easy Tech Solutions and you will see our previous ones. I wanted to thank everyone for coming today, and we will see you next month. If you have any questions or need additional information, just feel free to give us a call, and I'd be happy to set up a time to sit down with you and talk.
Mark, I think we might have a question coming in.
Yeah.
1 second. Oh, maybe
Awesome.
not.
Well, thank you everyone for coming, and we'll see you next month.